Welcome to the United Nations Ocean Conference. I invite to the stage the Honourable Mayor of Lisbon, Mr. Carlos Moedas, to deliver welcoming remarks on behalf of the city of Lisbon. The floor is yours.
Mr. Secretary General, Mr. President of the Kenyan Republic and the Portuguese Republic, heads of state and government, ambassadors, excellencies. Downstream of where we are, along the beautiful Tagus River, you find the Tower of Belém, marking the end of the river and the beginning of the sea. This unique monument is the high mark of the Manuelino, a late Gothic style that only exists in Portugal, unique because of its maritime patterns, and as such intimately connected to the sea voyages of the 15th and the 16th centuries. The tower was the first line of defense of the city, but also the final outpost before ships had to face perilous seas and uncharted waters. Our fearless navigators saw it to starboard as they left voyages from where most did not return, and saw it to port with unspeakable relief when they returned after years away from home and family. So this tower is about much more than art. This tower serves as a powerful symbol. It is Portugal's symbolic frontier between the known and the unknown. It marks the border between the Tagus and the Atlantic, but also between safety of closed waters and the danger of open sea. A border between complacency and ambition. And my wish for all of you for this conference is that you keep the Tower of Belém always on your minds as you start the difficult but critical discussions of the coming days. So this conference can mark a border between the past and the future of ocean policy, between a pattern of ocean degradation to one of ocean preservation. Will we be able to look back and say that Lisbon was the conference, that was a watershed moment of protection of our ocean, that from the Tagus River we set on a journey towards a healthy, sustainable ocean, that we had the courage to face the unknown, but also creativity to capture the enormous potential of the ocean in a sustainable way. This is what the UN conference is about. These are the questions you need to answer. And I am particularly honored to address you today as the mayor of a major global maritime city. Lisbon feels a particular vocation as a custodian at the sea because of our geography, because of our history. Protecting our common ocean requires governments and civil society, scientists and students, companies and NGOs. But it certainly requires harmony between the transnational level, represented by the UN or the European Commission and the European Union, and the level of the national governments, represented by our hosts, Kenya and Portugal, and all other UN countries. But make no mistake, it requires much more and more the local level. Believe me, I know. I served in the national government. I was a European Commissioner for Science and Innovation, and I am now the Mayor of Lisbon. As a Commissioner, we created at the time the Horizon Europe science missions, including the one on healthy oceans with the great Pascal Lamy. We signed the Belém Statement with the help of our President Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa on the Atlantic research, linking the south to the north of the Atlantic. And I pushed very hard to reinforce the EU budget for the ocean. But it is as a mayor that I can make a real difference on the ground, by translating the macro goals into concrete ideas, by involving citizens designing and implementing those ideas. And that's why Lisbon will become this summer one of the first European capitals to have free public transportation for the young and the elderly. That's why we are launching the Lisbon Global Ocean Center in Lisbon, an accelerator that connects scientific research to concrete products and tackle concrete problems, because we want to translate your goals, your ideas into concrete ideas for the people, ideas that citizens understand because they can touch those ideas. Cities are today the platforms of now, the platforms that will connect the citizens to your goals. So count on cities, count on Lisbon, and may the Tower of Belém inspire you, like inspired so many sailors and navigators over the centuries, to face the unknown, to set a higher ambition, and to embrace our common ocean. Thank you very much.
Distinguished heads of state and government, ministers, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I declare open the 2022 United Nations Conference to support the implementation of Sustainable Development Goal 14, conserve and sustainably use the ocean, seas and marine resources for sustainable development. I call to order its first plenary meeting. In accordance with Rule 17 of the Provisional Rules of Procedure, I will serve as temporary President of the Conference until the election of its two presidents. And I promise this will be the only bureaucratic part of this conference. I should like to extend a warm welcome to all of you, and I'm looking forward to a successful and productive conference. As representatives are aware, this conference is held pursuant to General Assembly Resolution 73-292 of 9 May 2019 and Decision 75-578 of 9 September 2021 on the overarching theme of scaling up ocean action based on science and innovation for the implementation of Goal 14, stock-taking, partnerships and solutions. I now invite the conference to proceed with the election of the two presidents, one from Kenya and one from Portugal. It is my understanding that there is a general agreement among all delegations to elect His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, President and Commander-in-Chief of the Defence Forces of the Republic of Kenya, and His Excellency Marcelo Nuno Duarte Rebelo de Sousa, President of the Portuguese Republic, as Presidents of the Conference. May I take it that the Conference wishes to elect by acclamation His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta and His Excellency Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa as Presidents of the 2022 United Nations Conference to support the implementation of Sustainable Development Goal 4, conserve and sustainability use the oceans, seas and marine resources for sustainable development? It is so decided. On behalf of all participants, I want to congratulate His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta and His Excellency Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa on their election and invite them to take their seats at the podium to take over the proceedings of the conference. And I request protocol to escort their excellencies.
Your Excellency Marcelo Duarte Rebelo de Sousa, President of the Portuguese Republic, Your Excellency Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations, Your Excellency Abdallah Shahid, President of the 76th session of the General Assembly, Your Excellency Colin Vixen Kelpile, President of the Economic and Social Council, distinguished heads of state and government, ministers, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed an honor and a privilege for me to have been elected President of the 2022 United Nations Conference to support the implementation of Sustainable Development Goal number 14, which is to conserve and sustainably use the oceans, seas, and marine resources for sustainable development, and this together with His Excellency Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa of the Portuguese Republic. It is therefore my pleasure to invite His Excellency Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa, President of the Portuguese Republic and President of this conference, to make an opening statement.
Your Excellency, President Uhuru Kenyatta, Your Excellency Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations, Your Excellency Abdullah Shahid, President of the 76th Section of General Assembly, Your Excellency Colin Vixen Calapil, President of the Economic and Social Council, distinguished heads of state and government, ministers, excellencies, NGO, foundations, movements, activists, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor and a privilege for me to have been elected on behalf of the Portuguese people and Portuguese state and government, President of the 2022 United Nations Conference to support the implementation of Sustainable Development Goal 14, together with His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta. Dear friends, welcome to Portugal. This conference comes at the right place, at the right time, with the right approach, and with the right Secretary General of the United Nations. Yes, it is indeed an honor and a pleasure to have His Excellency Antonio Guterres promoting this important meeting as UN Secretary General, a man of principles, a man of convictions, a promoter of peace, social justice and sustainable development. The right place, Lisbon, Portugal. Portugal is what it is because of the oceans. Portugal, a platform between oceans, continents, cultures, civilizations. In the past, in the present, in the future. Sometimes succeeding, others failing, but always present and building bridges as this fruitful co-organization with Kenya, another bridge builder, one from the north, the other from the south. The right time, in spite of 2 years of forced postponement, of a pandemic, of a war, of dramatic economic and social crisis, and even together with the G7 meeting and the NATO summit. Regime, institutional powers, politicians go, the oceans stay. They are millions and millions of years old, long before humanity. They will be there for another millions and millions of years, provided we take care and stop killing them. Right time too, because oceans are central in geopolitical balance of power, healthcare, economic resources, energy, mobility, migrations, scientific and technological development, climate change. All of these is present either in the context or in the outcome of pandemic, of war, and of crisis. Right time also, because we must recover too much time we have lost and give hope a chance. Once again, before it is too late. The right approach, because life is too often dispute, fight, dissent, unilateralism, war, for various reasons. Goals, ambitions, frustrations, values, needs, perceptions. But life is also and must be convergence, dialogue, tolerance, multilateralism, international institutions, global cooperation in common priorities. The ocean, its sustainable development as long-term climate action are now the best examples of our other approach. So vital for so many states and so many people all around the world, forgotten or minimized by the mediatic leading narrative of the so-called first world, the wealthiest and privileged one, and vital for those younger generations that will in any case lead the future, and that spoke in a youth and innovation forum yesterday, expecting their voices to be heard during this conference. Excellencies, the right time, the right place, the right challenges and their effect on our short-term, intense, unidimensional day-by-day living. The right approach, having to deal with avoidable and unavoidable dissents and wars, always hoping to overcome them by peace, but believing in and fighting for a more cooperative world. As the agreements achieved in these last years and mostly in these last months showed, as the talks preparing the outcome of this conference showed, this must be the conference of deconfinement and ambition. At the right place, the right time, the right approach. Here we are today. Be welcome, feel at home. Thank you very much.
I thank His Excellency President Rebelo de Sousa for his statement, and now allow me to deliver some introductory remarks as co-president of this conference. Your Excellency, President Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa, President of the Republic of Portugal, and our gracious host, Your Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, Your Excellency Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations, Your Excellency Abdallah Sharif, President of the General Assembly, Your Excellency Colin Kepail, President of the Economic Social Council, Your Excellency Liu Zhengmin, Secretary General of the Conference, Your Excellency Ambassador Peter Thomas, United Nations Secretary General's Special Envoy for Oceans, Honorable Ministers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, let me say that it gives me great pleasure to join the President of Portugal to welcome you to the second UN Oceans Conference, which Kenya is honored to co-host with Portugal. I want to thank His Excellency President Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa and the government of Portugal for the excellent preparations to host us here in Lisbon. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as you all know, this conference was scheduled to be held in 2020, but had to be postponed because of the COVID-19 pandemic. I want to thank all of you for your patience and also for joining us today in Lisbon. The first UN Oceans Conference, which was hosted by Sweden and Fiji in 2017, raised an alarm on the urgent need to scale up action on the SDG 14 to conserve and sustainably use oceans, seas, and marine resources for sustainable development. It is our expectation, therefore, that this conference will shift gear from proposals to action. Action that is driven by science, technology, and innovation. We expect to hear about solutions, examples of nature-based solutions. We expect to understand the linkages between oceans, climate change, and land-based action, such as pollution. And of great interest to most of us, ladies and gentlemen, is that we expect to leave Lisbon with a clear understanding of financing options and pathways. We note with concern that the SDG 14 is the most underfunded of all the 17 SDGs. So, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the ocean is the most underappreciated resource on our planet. Most of us do not comprehend just how central the ocean is to human existence. And for this, let me just cite a few examples which underscore why we are in this meeting today. Our oceans cover 70% of the global surface, and 3 billion people depend on marine and coastal biodiversity. The ocean is home to about 80% of all life in the world, and it supplies nearly half of the oxygen we breathe, and 90% of the world's goods are traded across oceans, and this list goes on and on. But human action has put ocean systems under immense stress. We dump more than 8 million tons of plastics into the oceans each year, sickening and contaminating at least 700 species of marine life. We are also threatening the stability of fish populations through illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing, and are altering and destroying marine ecosystems through dumping of toxic wastes into the waters. Poor management of the ocean has reduced the ocean's natural ability to restore itself. And I find it quite surprising that we would put such a critical resource at risk. But yet, If we manage the ocean more sustainably, it could produce as much as 6 times more food, generate 40 times more renewable energy than it currently does, and help lift millions of people across the globe out of poverty and increase economic as well as environmental resilience. Ladies and gentlemen, in the ocean, therefore, lies great risk as well as great opportunity. The burden of choice lies with each and every one of us. Over the last decade, we have accumulated sufficient knowledge of all the risks and opportunities and deepened our understanding of actions that we should take. The 2018 Sustainable Blue Economy Conference, which Kenya hosted together with Canada and Japan, highlighted untapped opportunities in enhancing marine technology and innovation, and the strengthening science and research to generate evidence-based policies. The conference also underscored the urgent need to mobilize financing from both public and private sources. The high-level panel for a sustainable ocean economy, where I serve as a member, has commissioned a compendium of evidence-based reports, including reports on addressing plastic, enhancing the ocean economy, and making the benefits from the ocean economy equitable. So, ladies and gentlemen, our actions are not commensurate with the threat that faces the oceans. We urgently need to build an ocean-based economy where effective protection, sustainable production, and equitable prosperity go hand in hand. These actions must be taken collectively because the ocean is a global common good. 2/3 of our global waters lie in areas beyond national jurisdiction of economic zones. Action or lack of action in one sea will have a positive or negative effect on other seas. Success in managing our global aquatic resource therefore requires and hinges critically on all of us working together. We need, ladies and gentlemen, to build political momentum towards ocean climate action as we head for the 27th session of the UN Climate Conference in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt in November of this year. We can no longer continue to make commitments that we cannot honor. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude, let me stress the importance of engaging all stakeholders. The youth, for example, must be our torchbearers on ocean action, and they need a front row seat in this discussion. The inspiring ocean-based actions that the youth presented yesterday demonstrate that they indeed are and can be a part of the solution. So as I conclude, I take this opportunity to wish all of us fruitful deliberations, and in the years to come, I would like us to look back on Lisbon as the place where we bent the arch of history and boldly chose to sustainably produce and protect our oceans. I thank you. Thank you very much. I would now like to invite His Excellency Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations, to make a statement.
Excellencies, distinguished delegates, dear friends, all protocol observed. Allow me, in my own city and in my own country, to say a few introductory words in my own language. É com especial gosto e indisfarçável satisfação que regresso ao Parque das Nações, em Lisboa, para um evento da maior relevância sobre os oceanos. E a todos os presentes dirijo uma especial saudação de boas-vindas à Conferência Oceanos das Nações Unidas de 2022. E agradeço aos governos de Portugal e do Quénia, dois países com larga tradição marítima, unidos pelo mar e pela história, a organização desta conferência e toda a dedicação, empenho e recursos colocados na sua preparação. Partilho com os meus concidadãos portugueses uma especial afinidade com o mar. O poeta Fernando Pessoa deixou-nos a mensagem de que, e cito, Deus quis que a terra fosse toda uma, que o mar unisse, já não separasse. Faço, pois, votos para que esta conferência represente um momento de unidade e de aproximação entre todos os Estados-membros em torno dos assuntos do mar e da proteção e preservação dos oceanos. Excellencies, when we see the Earth from space, we truly appreciate that we live on a blue planet. The ocean connects us all. Sadly, we have taken the ocean for granted, and today we face what I would call an ocean emergency. We must turn the tide. Global heating is pushing ocean temperatures to record levels, creating fiercer and more frequent storms. Sea levels are rising. Low-lying island nations face inundation, as do many major coastal cities in the world. The climate crisis is also making the ocean more acidic, which is disrupting the marine food chain. Ever more coral reefs are bleaching and dying. Coastal ecosystems such as mangroves, seagrasses and wetlands are being degraded. Pollution from land is creating vast coastal dead zones. Nearly 80% of wastewater is discharged into the sea without treatment, and some 8 million tons of plastic waste enter the oceans every year. Without drastic action, this plastic could overweight all the fish in the oceans by 2050. Plastic waste is not found in the most remote areas and is now found in the most remote areas and deepest ocean trenches. It kills marine life, and it is doing major harm to communities that depend on fishing and tourism. One mass of plastic in the Pacific is bigger than France. Unsustainable fishing practices are also rampant. Overfishing is crippling fish stocks. So, Excellencies, we cannot have a healthy planet without a healthy ocean. Our failure to care for the ocean will have ripple effects across the entire 2030 agenda. The ocean produces more than half of the oxygen we breathe. It is the main source of sustenance for more than 1 billion people. And industries relating to the ocean employ some 40 million people, and a healthy and productive ocean is vital to our shared future. 5 years ago, at the last United Nations Ocean Conference, we issued a call for action to reverse the decline in ocean health and to restore the productivity, resilience, and ecological integrity. And since then, many communities have come together to protect the marine resources they depend on. International partnerships have been working to create marine protected areas for the recovery of fisheries and biodiversity. And where salt management has been undertaken, fisheries have rebounded. The legal framework for ocean issues, the legal framework for ocean is well established in the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, which says to say that there has been significant progress on legally binding instruments on the conservation and sustainable use of marine biological diversity of areas beyond national jurisdiction. A new treaty is being negotiated to address the global plastic crisis that is choking our oceans. And just a week ago, we saw multilateralism in action with the World Trade Organization agreement on ending harmful fishery subsidies. It is also now well understood that by protecting and restoring the ocean, we are acting to address the climate crisis. Following COP26, the ocean's role in addressing climate change is now integrated in the work of the UNFCCC, the organization that, as you know, is extremely relevant in relation to fighting climate change, organizing the different conference of states parties that have been taking very important decisions, starting by the Paris Agreement. And we have also seen advances in ocean science and its ability to inform policy. And we have seen science and traditional knowledge combined for improved ocean management. All these efforts stand to be improved and scaled up during the United Nations Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development, launched last year. Excellencies, dear friends, all this is true, but let's have no illusions. Much more needs to be done by all of us together. And today, I would like to leave 4 recommendations. First, I urge all stakeholders to invest sustainable ocean economies for food, renewable energy, and livelihoods. And that entails new levels of long-term funding. Sustainable Development Goal 14 receives the least of any of the SDGs. Sustainable ocean management could help the ocean produce as much as 6 times more food and generate 40 times more renewable energy than it currently does. We need sustainable business models for ocean economies to operate in harmony with the marine environment and to guarantee a sustainable seafood industry. Second, the ocean must become a model on how we can manage the global commons for our greater good. That means preventing and reducing marine pollution of all kinds, both from land and sea-based sources. And it means scaling up effective area-based conservation measures and integrated coastal zone management. Third, we must protect the oceans and the people whose lives and livelihoods depend on them from the impact of climate change. All new coastal infrastructure, investments from cities and villages to port installations should be climate resilient. The shipping sector should commit to net zero emissions by 2050 and present credible plans to implement those commitments. And we should invest more in restoring and conserving coastal ecosystems such as mangroves, wetlands, and coral reefs. These are instrumental in capturing carbon and enhancing people's resilience and livelihoods. Finally, I invite all to join the initiative I recently launched to achieve the goal of full early warning system coverage in the next 5 years. We will target efforts to reach coastal communities and those whose livelihoods depend on early warning at sea. Fourth, we need more science and innovation.
to propel us into a new chapter of global ocean action. I invite all to join the goal of mapping 80% of the seabed by 2030. And I encourage the private sector to join partnerships that support ocean research and sustainable management. And I urge governments to raise their level of ambition for the recovery of ocean health. I commend those that have registered voluntary commitments, and each one matters. And I hope to see more pledges on ocean action this week and beyond. Excellencies, I began with a Portuguese quote. In honor of our other co-hosts, let me conclude trying to say what is a very wise Swahili proverb, which teaches us, bahari itatufikisha popote. The ocean leads us anywhere. It can help open new horizons and lead us to a more just and sustainable future for all. Together, let us do our part to make a difference for the ocean and for ourselves. Thank you.
I thank the Secretary General of the United Nations for his statement, and I now invite His Excellency Abdallah Shahid, President of the 76th session of the General Assembly, to make his
de Sousa, President of Portugal, heads of states and government, Your Excellency Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations, Your Excellency Colin Wixon Calapille, President of Economic and Social Council, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. I wish to commend our co-hosts, Portugal and Kenya, for their unwavering commitment to the ocean protection and conservation, and express my gratitude for the opportunity to join you. President Kenyatta, it is heartening to see your leadership on all aspects of environment issues. President de Sousa, thank you for your hospitality, your leadership, and your generous welcome to this beautiful country. As we meet here for the Ocean Conference, and as the waves of gratitude from around the world are cascading on the coast of Portugal, paying tribute, expressing gratitude to a great son of this magnificent nation, a true champion of multilateralism, a staunch advocate for humanity, and a standard bearer of stronger and more ambitious climate action, and a true protector of the ocean, my dear friend and our dearest Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, we say thank you. I also acknowledge the outstanding work of the Special Envoy of the Secretary General for the Oceans and the 71st President of the General Assembly, His Excellency Peter Thompson. I also thank the city of Lisbon for playing host to the Ocean Conference. It gives me immense pleasure to be here in this beautiful city. My dear friends, I'm a Maldivian. Whether I'm here as the President of the General Assembly or not, the ocean is in my blood. It runs through my life's narrative from childhood to parenthood, from my career in the Foreign Service to my parliamentary experience and to what I represent today. I am from a large ocean state. I am a child of the ocean. It is an inescapable truth and reality for me as a person, as a Maldivian, that the ocean is an essential part of life on this planet. I know these words ring true for many of you here today, for the small islanders, for the coastal residents, for the workers dependent on tourism and coral reefs, for the fisher persons, and for all those, however We turn to the ocean for livelihood, for reprieve, and for enjoyment. Indeed, beyond those who look to the blue horizon each day, the entirety of humanity relies upon the ocean for half of the oxygen we intake. This is why we are here this week, to stand for a resource that has carried us, figuratively and literally, through our entire existence. My friends, the ocean connects us all. It connects humanity, connects our planet. There is no context where we live on this planet without it. This ocean conference is an opportunity for us to take concrete, demonstrable action to underscore our commitment to save the ocean, to protect it against the threats, both human-driven and otherwise, that would take it away from us. And in this regard, on Friday, we will adopt a declaration that will give direction and set the tone for our future work. I was pleased to reappoint the permanent representative of Grenada, Her Excellency Keisha Megura, and permanent representative of Denmark, His Excellency Martin Herman, for this task. And I commend them and their experts, Ms. Nerissa Williams and Ms. Mira Bergman, for delivering, and thank all member states for their outstanding commitment. My dear friends, the 2022 UN conference comes at a critical and timely opportunity. On the one hand, the ocean faces a myriad of threats, from climate change to plastic pollution, from overfishing to acidification. The impetus to act is clear and resounding. On the other hand, we have a momentum, and the wind, or in this case, the current, is on our back. The 40th anniversary of the United Nations Convention on Law of the Sea has reiterated our shared responsibility for the ocean. Recent efforts in the new World Trade Organization give cause for hope, and there is optimism towards an international legally binding instrument on the conservation and sustainable use of marine biological diversity of areas beyond national jurisdiction. Solid partnerships across all stakeholders are being established and strengthened, as I witnessed in Palau earlier this year at the Our Ocean Conference. We have a strong foundation to build upon. Here in Portugal, the Ocean Conference can set the tone for what needs to be done. We can help to identify and define key areas of science-driven ocean action and to outline policies to be implemented by governments to deliver on change. We can highlight the contributions of female scientists to the study and protection of the ocean and commit to bring a stronger gender perspective to our work. I met yesterday with a group of women leading on this field, and I was impressed and inspired by their work. Women scientists represent, on an average, 38% of researchers in ocean science. While this is 10% higher than science in general, still it is not enough. We can also harness the energy, the passion, and the commitment of young people in our work. We need your ideas and your creativity now more than ever. The Ocean Conference can also strengthen the links between our efforts here and those on climate change, biodiversity, land degradation, and drought. What is happening in each of these areas has a direct impact on the ocean and vice versa. The excessive growth of sargassum, which I had opportunity to see firsthand during my recent visit to Dominican Republic, is such an example. Global warming, rising water temperatures, and pollutants favor the excessive growth of sargassum, and this is in turn affecting marine ecosystems, flood beaches, and threatens the economic recovery of countries that rely heavily on tourism. This complex problem, as well as the many other challenges faced by the oceans, call for the holistic approach on that note. And I commend the organizers for their choice of the theme and the focus on science and innovation. Human ingenuity has delivered us wonders and remarkable advances. We must lean into this. There is a future where sustainable ocean tourism drives economies and yet does not harm, where renewable energies, including ocean-based systems, reduce carbon emission and protect vital ecosystems, where circular economies thrive and our production and consumption does not degrade the world around us. We know that science and ingenuity can deliver. As I heard yesterday from women scientists, to ensure we come together to protect the ocean, we should all leave this conference standing with one hand up and the other hand down. One hand up to reach for success, pulling ourselves up and improving in every action we take. The other hand down to pull up others along with us. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, let us not fall prey to short-sightedness or lack of ambition. Let us invest in, trust in, and act upon science. Let us protect the ocean. Let us leverage its power, relish its beauty, cherish its diversity, and ensure its health and longevity. Let us save the ocean. Let us save humanity. Let us save the planet. I thank you.
I thank the President of the General Assembly for his statement, and I now invite His Excellency Colin Vixe Kalepela, President of the Economic and Social Council, to make his statement.
Excellencies, Presidents of Kenya and Poland, the co-presidents of the conference, President of the United Nations General Assembly, Abdullah Shahid, Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, Honorable Ministers, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. It is a distinct honor for me to participate and deliver some opening remarks at this very historic 2022 United Nations Ocean Conference. At the outset, I commend the governments of Portugal and Kenya for co-hosting this important and timely conference, and the Mayor of Lisbon for welcoming us in this very beautiful coastal marine city. I applaud the co-presidents for ably organizing this conference, and I wish them a successful outcome with tangible, actionable commitments and targets that should perfectly also reinforce the mandate of the United Nations Economic and Social Council, ECOSOC. Excellencies, ECOSOC plays a significant role in monitoring and reviewing implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and in promoting the three dimensions of sustainable development: the economic, social, and environmental. In other words, the Council is the home of all the SDGs. This 2022 United Nations Ocean Conference offers a perfect opportunity to take stock of the implementation of SDG 14 on life below water, dealing with conservation and sustainable use of oceans, seas, and marine resources for sustainable development. This is a critical moment to decisively address the combined impacts of the triple planetary crises of our time: climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution, which have been aggravated by the COVID-19 pandemic. It is urgently imperative that we exert more effort to conserve and sustainably use the oceans, seas, and marine resources for sustainable development. Healthy and well-managed oceans, seas, and marine resources are fundamental to saving our planet and supporting our livelihoods and prosperity for all, as well as the survival of all other species. Our well-being is inextricably linked to the health and sustainable productivity of our oceans, as more than 3 billion people, as alluded by the co-president Uhuru Kenyatta, rely on oceans for their livelihoods. The world's oceans contribute to poverty eradication, sustained economic growth, global trade, and food security. Notwithstanding these benefits, inconsiderate human activities are increasingly undermining the health and productivity of the oceans and our environment, and thus escalating the climate crisis. As highlighted in the recently released report of the Secretary General on progress towards the Sustainable Development Goals, the world's oceans and seas continue to rapidly deteriorate due to increasing acidification, eutrophication, and plastic waste, endangering the planet's largest ecosystem and billions of livelihoods, with small-scale fisher communities the hardest hit. Our own activities in response to the COVID-19 pandemic have also worsened the health of the oceans, with plastic waste having steadily infested the world's oceans as a result of increase in single-use plastic, primarily from medical waste. Excellencies, against this backdrop, I am pleased that we are gathered here today to reflect on ways we can join hands and strengthen conservation and sustainable use of oceans. I am optimistic that inclusive discussions of this nature, involving world leaders and policymakers, scholars, experts, scientists, activists, youth and civil society, and other stakeholders, can contribute to safeguarding oceans' health and chart a new path for their conservation and sustainable use. Above all, the outcomes of this conference will assist in sharing experiences and useful ideas to mobilize oceans action, generate new and much more ambitious commitments, strengthen and forge new partnerships that promote science-based innovative solutions. Your Excellencies, the High-Level Political Forum on Sustainable Development, the HLPF, that I will convene soon after this conference from the 5th to the 15th of July in New York under the auspices of ECOSOC, will undertake an in-depth review of, among others, SDG number 14. This will be the second time that this goal is being reviewed in depth after its initial review in 2017, when the first UN Ocean Conference was held. This conference is therefore very important and timely because it will provide essential inputs to this year's HLPF. The High-Level Political Forum will focus in particular on the interlinkages and synergies between SDG 14 and other goals. As you would be aware, this year's ECOSOC and HLPF theme is Building Back Better from Coronavirus Disease or COVID-19, while advancing the full implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. The review of SDG 14 is also significant, given the devastating impact the COVID-19 pandemic has had on oceans-based economies, fisheries, aquaculture, and tourism. The implementation of SDG 14 depends on reimagining the human relationship with the oceans. This, in turn, depends on building oceans awareness through mobilizing public concern, including by fostering ocean literacy and local action. I believe that a more universal concern for oceans' health and the common benefits that can be derived from healthy and productive oceans may also assist to address the existing funding gap for ocean action. I hope that the deliberations at this conference will reinvigorate commitments, partnerships, and action towards SDG 14 and strengthen science policy interface to support sustainable oceans management. In addition, several VNR countries, Your Excellencies, the voluntary national reviews, the VNRs that are presented at the HLPF are an important mechanism for sharing knowledge and peer learning in the implementation of the SDGs. I am encouraged that recent VNRs highlighted the importance of conserving marine ecosystem and biodiversity. I am gratified that this year 44 countries have emphasized the commitment to reducing plastic waste and marine litter and addressing the problem of microplastic. In addition, several VNR countries have noted the need to strengthen institutional capacity in the area of marine science and the blue economy, and the need to protect fisheries resources. As President of ECOSOC, I will continue in the remainder of my tenure to ensure that the Council remains a useful forum and be used for more sustainable future and development. Let me close, co-presidents, by reassuring that the Council remains at your disposal to serve as an inclusive platform in addressing the myriad of challenges we face today and in the future. And I thank you very much for your kind attention.
I thank the President of the Economic and Social Council for his statement, and I now invite Mr. Liu Zhianmian, Secretary General of the Conference and the Undersecretary General for Economic and Social Affairs, to make a statement.
Your Excellency, Mr. President of the Portuguese Republic, Your Excellency, Mr. President of the Republic of Kenya, Mr. Secretary General of the United Nations, distinguished heads of state and government, honorable ministers, excellencies, distinguished delegates, distinguished guests, and all stakeholders, ladies and gentlemen. As the Secretary General of the 2022 UN Ocean Conference, I would like to take this opportunity to express my sincere appreciation to the co-hosts of this conference, governments of Portugal and Kenya. They have worked tirelessly and under very difficult circumstances over the past 3 years to make this important conference a reality. I would like to thank the Secretary General Guterres for his inspiring words just delivered at this opening of the conference. It is my hope that we can act on his call to accelerate actions and build new partnerships for ocean health so that together we can learn from each other and promote solutions anchored in science and innovation for a sustainable ocean, as envisaged by the theme of this conference, scaling up ocean action based on science and innovation for the implementation of the Goal 14, stock-taking, partnerships, and solutions. I would also like to thank the President of the UN General Assembly and the ECOSOC President for their guidance and support for the preparation of this conference. I would also like to congratulate all delegations for coming to agreement on a concise, action-oriented outcome document for formal adoption at the closing of this conference. I would especially like to thank Her Excellency Ambassador Keisha McCurry, Permanent Representative for Grenada to the United Nations, and His Excellency Ambassador Martin Herman, Permanent Representative of Denmark to the United Nations, for their able stewardship of this important milestone document entitled Our Ocean, Our Future, Our Responsibility. I'm particularly happy to see the focus on science and innovation, the recognition and acknowledgement of the ocean climate biodiversity nexus, and the call for empowerment and full and equal and meaningful participation of women and girls in progressing towards achieving Goal 14. Distinguished delegates, not only are we falling behind in our quest to achieve Goal 14, but we are also still suffering from an uncertainty and the after effects of the global COVID-19 pandemic. We should be confident that while every crisis, the path to recovery provides opportunity. We must take opportunity offered by the COVID-19 recovery to put in place the actions and policies needed for a more sustainable ocean, to build more equitable blue economies that promote the well-being of all people in long term. Therefore, I urge all your delegations to make your commitments and pledges to enrich the registry of voluntary commitments that is managed by UNDESA, the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs. These commitments are key to stemming the declining health of the ocean. Every step counts. Every commitment, however small, matters. We must also take this opportunity to direct support towards marine scientific research, ocean observation and monitoring, including research and monitoring relating to social sciences. Marine scientific research will help us better understand how the ocean supports our lives and livelihoods, and how it might better inform our policies. We must ensure that all countries can benefit from scientific and technological innovations as they rebuild their economies. Ladies and gentlemen, during this conference, we will host 9 plenary meetings and 8 interactive dialogues to address priority topics around SDG 14 targets. The plenary meetings will be devoted to statements by world leaders, ministers, heads of delegations, and major stakeholders. The interactive dialogues are designed to be collaborative and multi-stakeholder in nature. They will focus on recommendations to support the implementation of Goal 14, including through strengthened cooperation, building on existing successful partnerships, and stimulating innovative and concrete new ones, taking into account the theme of this conference. Distinguished delegates, you come to Lisbon with your vision and commitment, and you will leave Lisbon having made many new friends, widened your knowledge, and formed innovative ideas for new partnerships that can help all of us accelerate progress towards Goal 14. May this conference inspire and re-energize your efforts to protect the health of our ocean for us and for our future generations. Distinguished delegates, before closing, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to the government and people of Portugal for the warm hospitality extended to all our participants. I would also like to thank all my UN colleagues for their dedication in preparation and support of this conference. I wish this Ocean Conference a great success. I thank you.
I thank the Secretary General of the Conference for his statement. We have now heard the last speaker for the opening segment of this conference, and I now invite the conference to consider item number 3 of the provisional agenda, entitled Adoption of the Rules of Procedure. The conference has before it a note by the Secretariat issued as document A/CONF 2030/2022/2, containing the provisional rules of procedure of the conference. May I take it that the conference agrees to adopt the rules of procedure contained in the document A/CONF.230/2022/2. I hear no objection. It is so decided. The conference has thus concluded its consideration of the agenda item number 3. I now invite the conference to consider item number 4 of the provisional agenda, entitled Adoption of the Agenda of the Conference. Again, I would like to draw the attention of delegations to document A/Conference 230/2022/1, which contains the provisional agenda for the conference. May I take it that the conference wishes to adopt the agenda as contained in document A/CONF.230/2022/1. I hear no objection. It is so decided. I now invite the conference to consider item number 5 of the agenda, entitled Election of Officers Other than the Presidents. Under Rule 6 of the Rules of Procedure, the conference shall elect from among representatives of participating states, and on the basis of ensuring the representative character of the General Committee, 13 vice presidents, one of whom shall be designated as the Rapporteur General. With regard to the election of the vice presidents, I have been informed that there is general agreement among delegations to elect the following countries. From among the African states, Angola and Mozambique. From among the Asian Pacific states, the Islamic Republic of Iran, Singapore, and Sri Lanka. From among the Eastern European states, Estonia, Latvia, and Poland. From among the Latin American and Caribbean states, Chile, Dominican Republic, and Peru. And from among the Eastern European and other states, Iceland and Malta. May I take it that the conference wishes to elect Angola, Chile, the Dominican Republic, Estonia, Iceland, the Islamic Republic of Iran, Latvia, Malta, Mozambique, Peru, Poland, Singapore, and Sri Lanka as vice presidents by acclamation. It is so decided. On behalf of the conference, I congratulate the vice presidents on their election. Also under this item, and in a letter dated 24th June 2022, from the permanent representative of Kenya and Sweden to the United Nations in New York, addressed to the President of the General Assembly, that was circulated to all permanent representatives and permanent observers to the United Nations in New York, the Presidents would like to propose that the conference elect 2 ex officio vice presidents from Kenya and Portugal. May I take it that the conference wishes to elect Kenya and Portugal as ex officio vice presidents? It is so decided. I now invite the conference to proceed of the Rapporteur General of the conference. I have been informed that there is general agreement to designate Her Excellency Maria de Jesus de Reis Ferreira, Permanent Representative of Angola to the United Nations in New York, as Rapporteur General of the conference. May I take it that the conference wishes to proceed accordingly? I hear no objection. It is so decided. On behalf of the conference, I congratulate Her Excellency Maria de Jesus de Reis Ferreira on her designation as Rapporteur General of the conference, and I invite her to take her seat at the podium. The conference has thus concluded its consideration of agenda item number 5. I now invite the conference to consider agenda item 6, entitled Organization of Work, including the establishment of subsidiary organs and other organizational matters. The conference has before it a note by the Secretariat entitled Organizational and Procedural Matters, contained in document A/CONF.230/2022/3. May I take it that the conference wishes to approve the organization of work set out in document A/conference.230/2022/3? I hear no objection. It is so decided. In relation to the 8 interactive dialogues, I would like to inform the conference that in accordance with the mandate provided to us by the General Assembly Resolution 73/292, the Presidents have appointed the following co-chairs. His Excellency David Parker, Minister of Environment and Minister of Oceans and Fisheries of New Zealand, and Her Excellency Flavian Joubert, Minister of Environment, Energy and Climate Change of the Seychelles, as co-chairs of the interactive dialogue on addressing marine pollution. His Excellency Abrao Vincent, Minister of the Sea of Capo Verde, and His Excellency Espen Barth Eide, Minister of Climate and Environment of Norway, and as co-chairs of the interactive dialogue on promoting and strengthening sustainable ocean-based economies, in particular for small island developing states and least developed countries. Her Excellency Tanya Pilsberg, Minister of Environment and Water of Australia, and Her Excellency Xiamen Fuertes, Vice President of Foreign Affairs of Chile, as co-chairs of the interactive dialogue on managing, protecting, conserving, and restoring marine and coastal ecosystems. His Excellency John Kerry, Special Envoy for Climate Change of the United States, and His Excellency Matthew Samuda, Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation of Jamaica, as co-chairs of the interactive dialogue on ocean acidification, deoxygenation, and ocean warming. Her Excellency Joyce Murray, Minister of Fisheries, Oceans, and the Canadian Coast Guard of Canada, and His Excellency Derek Clazen, Minister of Fisheries and Marine Resources of Namibia, as co-chairs of the interactive dialogue on making fisheries sustainable and providing access for small-scale artisanal fishers to marine resources and markets. Her Excellency Amelia de Montchamp, Minister of Ecological Transition and Territorial Cohesion of France, His Excellency Franz Tachebak, Minister of Environment and Energy of Costa Rica, as co-chairs of the interactive dialogue of increasing scientific knowledge and developing research capacity and transfer of marine technology. Her Excellency Gulu Thurthur Desan, Minister of Environment, Energy and Climate of Iceland, His Excellency Vivian Balakrishnan, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Singapore, as co-chairs of the interactive dialogue on enhancing the conservation and sustainable use of oceans and their resources by implementing international law as reflected in the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. And His Excellency Brusław Sandow, Deputy Prime Minister for Climate Policies and Minister of Environment and Water of Bulgaria, and His Excellency Molwin Joseph, Minister of Health, Wellness and Environment of Antigua and Barbuda, as co-chairs of the interactive dialogue on leveraging interlinkages between sustainable development, goal number 14, and other goals towards the implementation of the 2030 Agenda. I would like to express appreciation to the co-chairs for assuming this important role, and by so doing, this conference has concluded this stage of consideration of agenda item number 6. I now invite the conference to consider sub-item A of agenda 7, entitled Appointment of the Members of the Credentials Committee. Rule 4 of the Rules of Procedure provides for a Credentials Committee of 9 members shall be appointed at the beginning of the conference, and its composition shall be based on that of the Credentials Committee of the General Assembly at its 74th session. The following states who are members of the Credentials Committee of the 74th session of the General Assembly, and they are Barbados, Botswana, China, Mauritius, Nepal, Russian Federation, San Marino, the United States of America, and Uruguay. I have been informed by the Secretariat that San Marino has indicated that it would not be able to participate in the conference and would accordingly not be available to serve on the Credentials Committee. Therefore, in accordance with the past practice of the Conference of the United Nations, Sweden, from Western Europe and other states, has been nominated to replace San Marino as a member of the Credentials Committee. May I therefore take it that the conference wishes to appoint Barbados, Botswana, China, Mauritius, Nepal, Russian Federation, Sweden, United States of America, and Uruguay as members of the Credential Committee of the conference. I hear no objection. It is so decided. Delegates are reminded that in accordance with the rules of procedure of the conference, credentials issued by the head of state or government or by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, or in the case of the European Union, by the President of the European Council or the President of the European Commission, should be submitted to the Office of Legal Affairs, located in the Fernando Pesa Hall of the conference venue, if they have not already been submitted. The conference has thus concluded its consideration of sub-item A of agenda item number 7. Distinguished heads of state and government, ministers, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the conference shall now commence its general debate under agenda item number 8, and in accordance with the organization of work of the conference contained in document A/Conference 230/2022/3, statements in the general debate shall not exceed 5 minutes. Speakers with longer statements are encouraged to read a shorter version of their text and to submit the full length of their statement to e-statements-oceans@un.org for posting on the Journal of the United Nations. To assist speakers in managing their time, a timer is being projected on the screen. I now have the honor to invite His Excellency João Manuel Gonçalves Lourenço, President of the Republic of Angola, to address the conference on behalf of the community of Portuguese language countries.
Excelência Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa, Presidente da República Portuguesa, Excelência Uhuru Muiga Kenyatta, Presidente da República do Quênia, Excelência António Guterres, Secretário-Geral das Nações Unidas, Excelências, Senhores Presidentes, Chefes de Estado e de Governo, Excelência Abdullah Shaid, Presidente da Assembleia Geral das Nações Unidas, Excelência Colin Vixen Kelapilo, Presidente do Conselho Econômico e Social das Nações Unidas, digníssimos chefes de delegação e parceiros internacionais, distintos convidados, minhas senhoras, meus senhores. É com bastante satisfação que participo nesta segunda Conferência das Nações Unidas, dedicada aos oceanos, durante a qual teremos a oportunidade de abordar todos os aspectos relacionados com este tema e procurar perceber a evolução que se registrou desde o evento anterior e, em face disso, perspectivarmos as ações futuras para cuidarmos coletivamente deste bem comum. Estamos diante de mais uma oportunidade de analisarmos tudo o que fizemos para garantir o cumprimento das metas definidas pelas Nações Unidas em termos da redução da poluição marinha, da proteção dos ecossistemas marinhos e costeiros, da redução da acidificação dos mares, do fim da pesca excessiva e da pesca ilegal. Excelências, minhas senhoras, meus senhores, os oceanos são não só uma importante fonte de riquezas para as economias dos países por eles banhados, como desempenharam sempre um importante papel na mobilidade dos povos, na interação e integração das diferentes culturas, religiões, hábitos e costumes dos povos e nas trocas comerciais entre as nações. Chefes de Estado e de Governo, representantes da comunidade científica, o setor privado e a sociedade civil procurarão, nesta Cimeira de Lisboa, encontrar respostas para a crescente necessidade de implementarmos novos paradigmas de exploração sustentável dos imensos recursos que os oceanos colocam à nossa disposição, os quais temos que procurar explorar de forma cada vez mais sustentável e preservar para gerações vindouras. Os oceanos constituem a maior biosfera do planeta e a eles estão associados um conjunto de benefícios para a humanidade, os quais devemos salvaguardar para que as gerações do futuro tenham uma qualidade de vida melhor. O triste cenário que hoje constatamos impele-nos a agir com a máxima urgência por forma a encontrarmos soluções que invertam a atual tendência de poluição dos mares e oceanos e de exploração desregrada de recursos marinhos. Excelências, minhas senhoras, meus senhores, no momento em que o meu país se está a preparar para realizar eleições gerais nas próximas semanas, decidi, apesar disso, vir a Lisboa para me associar à reflexão conjunta que aqui faremos sobre os oceanos, assunto de capital importância para a sobrevivência da humanidade. O governo angolano integrou no seu Plano de Desenvolvimento Nacional o ordenamento das atividades que ocorrem no mar, de modo a potenciar a economia azul através do reforço da fiscalização e regulação da exploração dos recursos marinhos. Excelências, senhoras e senhores, a República de Angola mantém uma relação com o Oceano Atlântico que nos obriga a cada momento a desenvolver iniciativas e a procurar soluções que concorram para a sua utilização em moldes que o protejam e sirvam os interesses de todos os países que lhe são ribeirinhos. É em função desta perspectiva que temos vindo a desenvolver ações no sentido de alargar os limites da nossa zona econômica exclusiva, para o que temos procurado dar os passos necessários junto da Comissão competente das Nações Unidas, com vista a consagrarmos legalmente este objetivo, na base do qual poderemos passar a utilizar e proteger os recursos que se encontram em zonas próximas da nossa costa e que têm vindo a ser objeto de dilapidação por parte de frotas pesqueiras estrangeiras não licenciadas. Excelências, minhas senhoras, meus senhores, não é hoje possível falarmos da necessidade da preservação e melhor exploração dos recursos marinhos sem falarmos também na necessidade da proteção do ambiente no geral, cuja degradação se reflete negativamente nos mares e oceanos. O aquecimento global é responsável pelo degelo da calote glaciar, que vem aumentando assustadoramente o nível das águas do mar, colocando em perigo cidades e outros assentamentos populacionais do litoral à escala universal. Este mesmo aquecimento global, que aumenta a temperatura média das águas dos oceanos, também é responsável pelo aumento expressivo do número de ciclones, furacões e tsunamis no Atlântico, no Índico e no Pacífico, e que, sendo cada vez mais frequentes e devastadores, têm causado um elevado número de vidas humanas e danos materiais consideráveis em praticamente todos os continentes. É nossa responsabilidade tomarmos todas as medidas com vista a reduzir cada vez mais a emissão de gases com efeito de estufa para proteger a camada de ozono e, consequentemente, o planeta. Angola vem dando, nos últimos anos, passos significativos no sentido de reduzir a queima de combustíveis fósseis para a produção de energia elétrica. Privilegiamos a produção e transportação de energia de fontes hídricas para todo o país e apostamos em ambiciosos projetos de produção de energia fotovoltaica no centro, sul e leste do país, cujos primeiros parques serão inaugurados e sua energia injetada na rede nacional já neste mês de julho que se avizinha. Com a assinatura há dias de um importante contrato com uma empresa alemã, começamos a dar os primeiros passos na produção de hidrogênio verde para exportação já a partir de 2024. Temos feito em Angola um grande esforço de qualificação de quadros capazes de ajudar o país a atender com eficácia e eficiência requeríveis os assuntos relacionados com as principais preocupações à volta dos oceanos e, nesse sentido, temos realizado um exercício importante em parceria com o programa Rise África da União Europeia, com vista a abordar a questão do agravamento da poluição marinha, sobretudo a proveniente dos resíduos sólidos urbanos, dos quais o plástico constitui o maior problema. Estamos a prestar uma atenção especial às zonas úmidas, que fazem parte do ecossistema marinho e costeiro, priorizando neste âmbito a proteção e a conservação destas áreas através de ações de reflorestação e conservação de mangais, com destaque para a campanha de plantação em 8 meses de 1 milhão de mangais em toda a orla costeira angolana, realizada com a participação ativa da sociedade civil angolana, principalmente de jovens que se dedicam a causas ambientais. Excelências, minhas senhoras, meus senhores, estamos convencidos que não conseguiremos realizar os objetivos relacionados com a proteção do ecossistema marinho se não assumirmos com coragem a necessidade de se reforçar a capacidade de defesa e segurança marítima, fortemente ameaçadas por grupos de modernos piratas do mar que desenvolvem a sua atividade terrorista nas principais rotas marítimas, ameaçando seriamente o comércio internacional e a segurança nos oceanos. Neste capítulo, destaco muito em particular os problemas que se registram no Golfo da Guiné, no Corno de África e em outras zonas do planeta, onde a pirataria ameaça seriamente a utilização dos mares para fins pacíficos, como as trocas comerciais, o turismo e outras atividades conexas que impulsionam as economias. Considero importante a necessidade de se alargar a cooperação internacional com os países destas regiões, de modo a dotá-los de capacidade para fazerem face a esta ameaça global. Torna-se cada vez mais evidente a importância dos oceanos para o fluxo regular de mercadorias, o seu impacto no comércio mundial e na estabilização dos preços de bens essenciais e das matérias-primas, assim como no funcionamento normal da economia global. Perante esta constatação, sobressai necessariamente a importância fulcral e a necessidade incontornável da utilização pacífica dos oceanos como garante da sobrevivência em condições humanamente dignas das populações de todo o nosso planeta. Os oceanos, os mares e as infraestruturas terrestres a eles ligados, como os portos comerciais, são de tal ordem importantes para as economias e para o bem-estar dos cidadãos do mundo inteiro, que o bloqueio dos portos ucranianos do Mar Negro está a causar a crise alimentar global que vivemos atualmente pela escassez de cereais, de fertilizantes e de oleaginosas para a produção de óleo alimentar. A esse respeito, importa que a União Europeia, as Nações Unidas e, de uma forma geral, toda a comunidade internacional priorize e concentre os seus principais esforços na busca de um cessar-fogo imediato e incondicional, seguido de negociações com as partes consideradas importantes para se alcançar e construir uma paz que seja verdadeiramente duradoura para a Europa e o resto do mundo. No momento em que não se conseguiu ainda superar a tensão reinante no Sudeste Asiático, na Península Coreana, nem no Golfo Pérsico, qualquer uma delas com potencial de evoluir para uma confrontação nuclear, o mundo já não suporta o eclodir e manutenção de um novo conflito em pleno coração da Europa, pelas consequências que tem para a economia global, mas sobretudo para a paz e segurança mundial. Excelências, minhas senhoras, meus senhores, não poderia deixar de referir o grande esforço de cooperação que os Estados-membros da CPLP vêm realizando para assumir um protagonismo empenhado e interessado no debate sobre as questões relacionadas com os oceanos, se tivermos em conta o facto de sermos todos países costeiros e insulares. Destaco em todo este contexto algumas iniciativas bastante louváveis que foram sendo levadas a cabo, como os Blue Talks, que se constituíram numa plataforma de debates bastante úteis, realizados durante as semanas que antecederam esta conferência. Uma grande evidência da relevância que a CPLP atribui à sua relação com os oceanos é a declaração do Namibe, aprovada na província angolana com o mesmo nome. Trata-se de um importante documento jurídico que foi amplamente discutido entre todos os Estados-membros e visa a criação de uma plataforma de cooperação na promoção da pesca sustentável e combate à pesca ilegal, não declarada e não regulamentada entre os Estados-membros da CPLP. Excelências, minhas senhoras, meus senhores, queria aproveitar a ocasião para agradecer à Sua Excelência Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa, Presidente da República Portuguesa, à Sua Excelência Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, Presidente da República do Quênia, por esta importante iniciativa da realização desta conferência e pelas excelentes condições de trabalho e acomodação proporcionadas às delegações presentes. Igualmente agradeço às autoridades portuguesas e a este povo acolhedor pela hospitalidade que nos está sendo brindada. Muito obrigado a todos.
I thank the President of the Republic of Angola. I now would invite His Excellency Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa to take over the proceedings of the meeting. Your Excellency.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I now have the honor to invite His Excellency Surengel Whips, President of the Republic of Palau, to address the conference on behalf of the Pacific Small Island Developing States and also for a national statement.
Presidents, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I am honored to speak on behalf of the Pacific Small Island Developing States. I extend our congratulations to the presidents on their assumption of the presidency of this second UN Ocean Conference and assume